Real quick. Oh, good. Man, B, I've been screwing up Zoom here lately. Hey, everybody, welcome. Good morning. I don't
Hey.
I used to be so competent on Zoom. I feel like until about January 2023, and then apparently I don't know anything. I had a little problem with our regular link. Apparently, I'm not the host anymore. I don't know what happened. I set it up. I was the host at one point, and I don't know what happened. So I appreciate y'all's flexibility. Especially with this. So look, I want to jump in because I want to honor everybody's time and I don't want to take up too much time. Um, but today is more or less like a pop-up session. So I understand. I appreciate. I know it wasn't in the original syllabus. By no means will you be penalized if you have to go or anything like that. I just had a very unique and wonderful opportunity to bring in somebody that's going to add a lot of value to what we're talking about here when it comes to the seeing our sound and discovering our sound. This will also, beginning with the end in mind, will also put us in a position to see our students better once we get to the later portion of the course as well too. So it's just a great foundation and a bedrock for creating a great classroom experience, not just for your students, but for you as well. So I don't want to waste too much time because this is an exciting time for me. This absolutely changed my life, y'all. I'm not trying to oversell this. I'm telling you, it changed the way I saw teaching. It changed the way I saw my classroom. It changed the way I saw my students and my colleagues. And as a result, I have found more joy and less frustration when going to the day-to-day activities that we all engage in as teachers. So today, I'm excited to introduce a gentleman that's a friend of mine. His name is Brandon Burns. He is a phenomenal speaker, athlete. He'll tell you more about his journey, but he is a world-class athlete, speaker, but most importantly, he's just a great human being. He has the opportunity to work alongside the best motivational speaker in the world, if not one of the best, Dr. Eric Thomas. If you're familiar with the name, they call him ET, the hip hop preacher. He does a lot of work with NFL, NBA, and corporate. And you've probably heard him before. He's on commercials and different things like that. And after we've had this talk, you'll probably see him everywhere now that we've mentioned it. But Brandon is the right-hand man for E. I always like to joke with him. He is the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan, so to speak. So without any further ado, let's give a warm welcome to Brandon. Coach B, glad to have you in your place. The floor is yours, man.
Man, thank you so much, Mickey. Thank you so much, and it's truly been an honor just to share your friendship and share a lot of these platforms and spaces with you over the years. It's truly been amazing, and I think that's the best intro I think I've ever gotten. Like the Scottie Pippen to E.T.'s Jordan. That's the best intro anybody's ever given me. So that sets the bar kind of high. So hopefully we can meet it. But just as a really quick introduction, I want to start off by saying that it's a privilege to be before all of you because I genuinely think that you have the most important job in the whole country, right? Like you all are truly the backbone of American society because you are planting the seeds that you won't even get the harvest from. You might not even see it, but you're going to have a kid like me who comes into your classroom 5 years old, 10 years old, 15 years old, and then they're going to go on to do something 30 years from now, which is going to be 100% because of you and what you poured into them. And you have that ability to work and pour into them without even expecting anything in return. And so I think that's the most admirable profession that there is being a teacher and being able to pour into other people without necessarily getting that expectation of anything in return. Because Lord knows we all know that y'all are underpaid. Like you don't do it, you don't do it because you want a fancy car, or a big house. Like you really do it because you love doing it. And I think the challenge with that is whenever we are that passionate and whenever we are doing something that is so unselfish, a lot of times we forget about ourselves and we neglect ourselves, right? Now, I've never been a teacher in the sense of a classroom setting, but I'm a coach. And coaching is truly all I've ever done. It's really the only thing I've ever been halfway decent at. Like I can't fix your car. I can't bake you a cake. I can't sing very well. Mickey tried to teach me. He couldn't do it. I mean, I'm not that good at a lot of things, but coaching has always been something that I found myself drawn to. And so I started out as a gymnastics coach when I was 14 years old. Then I moved on to fitness coaching. From there, I started doing business coaching, and it went on and on and on until now I find myself working as really the right-hand man of the #1 motivational speaker in the world. But before I had some of those success stories, what I realized was that because of what I was doing in the position that I was in, and because of a lack of clarity, I was pouring out more than I was pouring into myself, right? And as we all know, you can't pour out of a cup that's empty. If your cup is empty and you're just trying to pour into the students, pour into the parents, pour into the school, pour into everybody else around you, and your own cup is empty, there ain't much you can do, right? And so today, what I want to focus on is really a change of pace for all of you. And I want to flip the script. I want to put the focus on you, because what most of us aren't used to is focusing on us, right? And that's where I want to get to today. Now, I've only got 20 or 30 minutes. This is a presentation that usually takes me 2 hours. So we're going to move a little bit quickly. So that's why I'm glad that you're teachers. I know that you're smart. I know you're ready. I know you're ready to take notes. And you're going to be able to keep up with us, but we are going to move pretty quickly. The first thing that I want to say is this tool that I'm going to introduce to you is all about clarity. So if you happen to be taking notes, just write that word down: clarity. Clarity. And the reason why clarity is so important is because clarity is what provides alignment. And if we want to be able to pour back into ourselves, if we want to be able to truly recharge, put ourselves in the best position to pour into our students and everybody else that's around us, because let's be honest, they deserve the best version of us, but we can't give them the best version of us until we flip the script and say, let me do what I need to do to make me the best version of me. Let me put myself in a position for success by pouring back into myself. But the reason why alignment is so important, I literally had an experience just a couple of days ago. I went to the gym, and I'm retired from gymnastics, but I still work out every day. I got to try and keep up with it. And so I go to the gym every single day to work out. And I pulled up outside of my gym, and there's mostly regular parking spaces where you just pull in kind of perpendicular to the curb, right? But there's 3 or 4 spaces where you can actually parallel park. And I always go to those spaces because it's just easier. You pull up, parallel park, hop out in the gym, and it was good. So I did this just a couple of days ago. I pull up to the gym and I line myself up with the car that was in front of me. And I pull up, it was pretty quick, pull up right in front of, or right behind the car that was parked in front of me, both parallel parks, jump out of the car, grab my gym bag, go inside. I think I did arms, of course, because that's my favorite. And I work out for an hour and a half. Everything's great. I come back outside. Oh, Mickey, I was appalled. I was appalled at the parking job that I had done. I went out there, I said, man, you could park a RV and 2 semi trucks in between me and the curb. And I said, man, how did I do this? Because I'm one of those people that I'm working on it, but I'm a little judgmental sometimes. And so I'm that guy that's like, oh, you can't park, you can't drive. Why'd you buy that car if you didn't know how to drive it? I'm that person. And then I walked outside like, yep, I'm exactly the type of person that I'm talking about. The same type of people I'm making fun of. That's me. I said, how did that happen? And as I replayed in my mind the sequence of events that led up to that, what I realized was that I didn't align myself with the curb. I aligned myself with who was in front of me. I aligned myself with that car in front of me. And so because my target was off, I thought I was supposed to be where that car was. I thought I was supposed to be in line with what he was doing, with his position, with his place. I ended up messing the whole thing up. And what I learned is that because I did not have clarity on where I should be, irregardless of where other people are, then I ended up missing the mark. Does that kind of make sense? Are you getting the analogy here? If I would have just looked at the curb, okay, here's the absolute where I should be based on where I want to park, I would have been just fine. But because I based me off of what somebody else was doing, whole thing was a mess, right?
And then, you know, B, this is so important because with this particular group, um, we're music educators. So we already have that tendency to sometimes compare our ensembles and what we do with our peers and with industry standards. So it's one of those things, you know, good or bad, it's how it's the nature of the beast. So if we're not careful, we can easily fall into those patterns, not just in the classroom, but even outside of it too.
That's right. And comparison is the thief of joy. And how many times have we heard about that? But how often do we consciously and intentionally say, you know what? Maybe I'm basing where I am off of where somebody else is, and that's stealing my ability to be truly, fully me. It's stealing me from the ability to chase my own potential, to fulfill all of who I am. Because I'll tell you this right now, and if you get nothing else from tonight's presentation, I want you to get this. You don't have to be anybody or anything different. You have to be all of who you are. Write that down. You don't have to be anybody different. You don't have to do anything different. I just need you to show up fully and truly you. And if you do that, everything else is going to take care of itself. I promise you. Because once you get that alignment between who you are and now you put yourself in a position to succeed based on knowing what environments lead you to succeed, I promise you life gets a whole lot easier. So like I said, this is usually a 2-hour thing. So I got to get into my slides, Mickey, or we're going to be here all night. So I'm going to go ahead. Oh, can I go ahead and get screen share access?
Make you the host.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of responsibility. That's scary.
I'm giving it to you.
Well, if I want to be the host, maybe just co-host would be good.
Ready or not?
Here we go. I love it. I love it. Okay, so let me. Oh, that's funny. It does not want to let me. Let's try it this way. Let's try it this way. And just let me know if this ends up not working. All right, hopefully.
Okay, I see something. It says loading.
Got it.
Yeah.
Is it paused or can you see where it says DISC assessment?
It just says loading.
See,
I see the top of the screen and then it's
resume share. See, I keep hitting resume share and it doesn't want to work. You know what? We're going to make it work. We're just going to go like this instead, and we're going to have to squint just a little bit, but it's better than nothing. All right. So let's do it this way. It's like you said, man, Zoom used to be so easy. And now all of a sudden, I think they threw some hidden stuff in there just to trip us up. Can we still see this okay, though, even if it's like this, not full screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful. Beautiful. So the tool that I want to introduce to you to be able to find this alignment is called the DISC assessment. All right. Now, what this is a psychological tool that's scientifically proven to accurately and predictably measure people's behavioral preferences. Now, that's kind of a mouthful, but all that means is that if we take the results of this assessment, it is predictive of people's behavior, meaning I can read something on the assessment, and based on that, I can reliably predict how you will behave based on your results. Now, it's very important to understand that this is a behavioral analysis tool. This is not saying this is who you are. This is your personality. You can never act any other way ever. It's simply your behavior. And I think of behavior as how we interact with the world. Behavior is how we interact with other people. It's not something that's fixed, but it is something that we have natural preferences and tendencies about, right? Now, I can choose to behave any way that I want to. I can behave in a very forgiving, very nice, very amicable way, or I can choose to behave in a very direct, maybe even a rude way. I can choose however I want to behave, but I know that naturally, based on how I'm wired, I'm going to lean into one more so than the other, right? So that's why we call it a behavioral assessment. Now, this came from a psychologist called Dr. William Marston in 1928. And he's actually the same person who invented the lie detector test and the character Wonder Woman. And what's so deep about that is the lie detector test is about telling if somebody is telling the truth, right? That's what it's designed for. We're trying to figure out if somebody's telling the truth. Wonder Woman had the lasso of, somebody should just shout it out. Wonder Woman has the lasso of truth. So the DISC assessment is not about putting you in a box. It's not about telling you who you are or how the only way you can behave. It's about getting to the truth of how you behave. Because Mickey said something really interesting before we actually started the recording here, which was self-assessment involves looking in the mirror. And the concept that I've come to realize is that although self-assessment relies on looking in the mirror, if you look at a broken mirror, your self-assessment will be inaccurate. And what the DISC assessment does is it pulls away all of the biases and, well, I want to behave this way, even though maybe in real life I behave this way. It pulls away those opinions. It pulls away what I'm trying to behave like versus what I truly behave like. It pulls all of that away and it gives us an objective look at where we are currently with our behavior, right? And if you've ever used a GPS system, you know that that current location is the most important part. If I have the exact latitude and longitude of where I'm trying to go, but I have no clue where I'm starting from, we're not going to go anywhere. We can't calculate the route because we don't have an accurate picture of where we're starting from. And that's what the DISC assessment provides us, an accurate picture of your behavior as it is today. And I want to make clear that there is no right or wrong in the DISC assessment. There is no good or bad. It just is what it is, right? Whether something is good or bad depends on if you are in alignment with where you should be. We're going to dive into that in just a few moments here. Now, why does it matter? The DISC assessment allows people to communicate more effectively, develop self-awareness, and create greater alignment in your life. Because again, once you recognize your natural strengths, talents, and abilities, if you can simply align yourself in that pocket and just stay there, all of a sudden you can get the same results for less effort. Once you understand, okay, Mickey communicates this way. This is his natural preference and tendency for how he likes to talk to people, how he likes to receive information, how he likes to give information. Now, all of a sudden, something that maybe he said something, I thought it was kind of cryptic, but all of a sudden now I say, oh, I get it now. He's a details guy. He's going to give me maybe more information than I need, but it's going to be step by step. And he's going to spell the whole thing out for me. I understand that now. And because I understand that, I'm not going to be upset when he gives me all the details. And likewise, when I communicate back to Mickey, I can say, you know what's going to make him feel the most comfortable? If I'm assigning him a task or if I'm explaining something to him, I'm probably going to need to give him all the details because I know that's his preference, right? So that's what the DISC assessment is going to do for us. Now, some of the benefits of this, and I want you to just ask yourself this question: what would it mean for your own effectiveness and fulfillment, right? Again, we're talking about pouring back into ourselves. What would it mean for your fulfillment if you understood your motivators? And a lot of us don't know this stuff. We go through life and we see that other people are motivated by money, and we almost assume that must be the universal motivator. Everybody gets motivated by money. And then we get a six-figure job opportunity and we're like, you know what? I don't know. I kind of like where I'm at. I kind of like this stability. I kind of like the relationships that I have here. I don't want to uproot. I don't want to move. You might not be motivated by money. You might be motivated by personal relationships, and that's okay. But if you don't know that, you're going to end up chasing after an opportunity that you're going to hate, all because you didn't know what really drives you, right?
And B, that's so important on a number of different reasons, especially with the way that the market is going, the industry is going. Opportunities are opening up for people to leverage what they do as teachers and maybe even explore some other options. And then we have folks on here who are exploring their I call it the next it, not the exit strategy, but the next it strategy in regards to retirement. So when we think about this, it's so important that we think about this not just from the classroom standpoint, but also from the professional and personal standpoint of what motivates us. Because again, wherever you go, you go. At the end of the day, wherever you go, you go. And at the end of the day, it's not always about the places we go, but it's who we are as we go into those places too.
That's right, because you're never going to outrun you. You're going to follow you everywhere that you go. And so if you have a challenge with conflict, or you have a challenge with details, or you have a challenge with what motivates you, any kind of challenge, the next school, you're gonna have the same challenge, and the next school after that, or the next entrepreneurial opportunity after that. So that's why this work is so important, because once we can identify where those challenges are, and then what environments will set us up for more success, all of a sudden, wherever we go, success follows us because we are the success, right? So motivators are one big thing that you're going to be able to learn. Preferred learning style. You're going to understand how you prefer to teach and how you prefer to receive information. That's critical because most of us are naturally going to teach the way that we want to be taught. We're naturally going to coach the way that we want to be coached. We're going to communicate with others the way that we would prefer to be communicated with. And so we have to develop that awareness of, well, what's my preference? So now I can be conscious and intentional about it so that I don't accidentally let that bleed over into a situation where maybe my preference isn't the best possible solution for the challenge that's right in front of me, right? Communication tendencies, blind spots, possible limitations. Again, if you were driving a car with no side mirrors, that's going to be tough, because you have blind spots and you have no way of knowing what's there. But as soon as you get the information, now I can be on lookout. Oh, you know what? I know that I have to be cautious of this blind spot over here. Once I'm aware of it, I'm intentional about keeping an eye on that, right? So it doesn't sneak up on you. Natural strengths and superpowers. We're going to teach you how to get aligned with what you're naturally gifted at. That's the power of the DISC. We're going to go through these pretty quickly. Number one, self-awareness. You're going to discover your natural teaching style, communication tendencies, ideal work environment, and more. So you're going to figure out where are you naturally going to be successful. It's amazing how if we take the exact same person, put them in one environment, and we take somebody who's a carbon copy, and maybe they're even less skilled, less experienced, less naturally gifted at whatever it is that they do, and we put them in a different environment, the person who's actually not as good at their craft can succeed far more than this other individual because this individual is in the wrong environment. That alignment allows you to create more results with less effort. It gives you leverage. Number two, awareness of others. Learn to instantly identify anybody's motivators, learning styles, strengths, and potential blind spots. I call this the phenomenon of allowing us to understand what we know but can't put words to. We know as teachers, coaches, mentors, we know there's certain kids that we talk to them, they just get it. It's like an instant connection, right? We know coworkers, it's an instant connection. And we know that there's those certain kids that have that one behavioral profile, that one personality, man, we just don't get along. I don't know what it is, but we just can't seem to get on the same page. We're going to teach you exactly what that is and what those barriers are so that we can overcome those. Number three, intentional interactions. Integrating the assessment into relationships, career goals, and daily activities provides a literal blueprint for success. All right. Now, what we're going to do is go over these four styles relatively briefly. What I want you to focus on here is depth, not width. What you're going to learn about the DISC assessment is it's actually incredibly simple. D.I.S.C. There's only four. It's only four behavioral styles, and it allows us to simplify life. Everybody who walks into your classroom, every relationship that you have, everybody that calls your phone is going to be one of these four. Everybody on the planet. And when you can learn to simplify life like that and say, oh, you're this style, I can then communicate with you like that in order to be most effective, that's going to give you a fast track to success. So it's not that it's super complicated or that we're going through a bunch of different behavior styles. It's just four. We're going to go deep on those, right? Here's our first one, D. I like to call this the pilot, right? If you've ever been on an airplane before, you know that the pilot, probably not the most talkative person in the room, not the most bubbly personality. Their real focus is getting stuff done, right? Now, their traits are they're very, very direct. When you hear a pilot, I don't know if you've ever heard a conversation between air traffic control and a pilot, like on the black box of a aircraft, but the pilots always communicate super direct. Hey, this is flight 717 going to heading 0030. Over. That's it. You need to know where I'm going, and that's it. We don't need to talk about how the family's doing. We don't need to talk about what we had for dinner last night. We don't have to do anything, but I need to tell you where we're going. That's it. How can I get from point A to point B as quickly as possible? So a lot of times when we're interacting with people and they seem super to the point, super direct, they don't beat around the bush at all. A lot of us, myself included, we might take that as aggressive, but for them, they're looking at what is the fastest distance from point A to point B, and they know it's a straight line. And if I'm doing a lot of emotions, mixing a lot of emotions into the conversation, a lot of personable, stories, all of a sudden that's taking us off course. It's taking us off track, and it's delaying the result. So these are very direct, bottom line oriented people. They're very decisive. They don't need a lot of time to make decisions. You give them two options, boom, we're going this way. Very decisive. They tend to naturally gravitate towards leadership positions because of that. And they're very determined. These are the type of people who aren't just able and willing to fight through adversity. They enjoy it. They like to push through adversity. They say, oh, a challenge? Let's go. They're excited by it. They want the ability to push through a challenge and overcome an obstacle. So these people actually will get bored and will detach from a situation if they don't have something to overcome, right? So those are the top line traits of a pilot. Now the needs, and these are needs not in the sense of, oh, this is what I need. You better give me respect. I know that's the first one everybody looks at. Respect. You got to give me respect. You owe me your respect. No. Completely different context. What this is saying is that in order for a pilot or that D personality to leverage their strengths, their superpowers to the fullest ability, they need to have a little bit of respect. Because if you don't respect them and they can feel that, they're all of a sudden on defense mode. They're going to get aggressive for no reason. That's what they need to be at their best. If we want to give them what they need to be at their best and leverage their superpowers to the fullest ability, we got to give them respect. We got to give them choices. We got to give them control. Never back a pilot or a high D personality into a corner, right? That's what they need to be at their best. Because look at the traits. If they're decisive and their superpower is making quick decisions, then they're going to need some ability to make choices. They need some level of control in order to exercise that superpower. And if we take that away from them, they're like, this is what I do. This is who I am. And now I can't make decisions. I can't lead. You're killing them from the inside out, right?
I've had some students, especially now that I've moved and I'm having to learn an entire community. Now, this has become a powerful tool because for many of us, sometimes the kid that we don't like in class, that's the pilot. You know, it's when you start thinking, like, picture that kid right there. So what I found is if you can't beat them, make them the leader. If
Yeah.
you can't beat them, give them a level of responsibility that fuels that respect that they yearn for. And I'm telling you, I'm a believer. I've seen this. I've seen it. Sounds crazy, but it's not, y'all. Once you put them in the pilot seat, now the good thing is, as the teacher, they need to know they're the co-pilot. Like, okay, you're not running the whole class. But when I've given them those opportunities, it's been such a win-win. But I had to become a behavior detective. That's why this tool is so powerful.
That's right. That's right. If you don't recognize it, if you don't see it, then our hands are tied, right? Once we develop the ability to see, oh, you're super direct. You don't mind confrontation. You want to take charge. You want to lead from the front. I got it. I can actually give you what you need and help you develop in the process, right? So the next one, and really quick, before we go to our next one, if you feel like this is you, just put D in the chat. I want to know how many pilots we got in the room. If you feel like this kind of describes you, put D in the chat. I want to see how many we got. Let me open up the chat. We might not have any, and that's okay. Because here's the deal. Even if you don't resonate with this, you still have to be able to identify it so that you can make use of this in your classroom or even in your own life. If you just have a pilot that you have a relationship with in your own personal life and you need to be able to communicate with them effectively, once you understand this, all of a sudden we can detach our emotions. You're too direct. You're too aggressive. Oh, wait a minute. It's not that they're trying to be rude. It's that they're looking for the fastest path to results because that's what they value. Makes sense, right? Let's move on to our flight attendant. This is our high I personality, right? Our high I personality. This is the I in DISC. And I like to equate this to the flight attendant. And following that airline analogy, you get on an airplane, the flight attendant is the only one that's really talking to you. They have the energy. They greet you as soon as you step on the plane. Hey, how's it going? Welcome aboard. They're the ones that are serving you snacks, drinks. They're really all about the experience. So their traits are they're very influencing. These are your people. They just have that magnetic personality that seems to attract people to them, and they can articulate well. They can just get along with anybody, right? They're super interactive. These are not the people who are at the party in the corner on their phone, not trying to talk to anybody. These are the people that are life of the party. I want to talk to everybody in the room because that's what gives me energy. And they're also very, very imaginative. They're super creative. Their imagination is just off the charts. They have all these creative ideas bouncing around in their mind, and they usually have a lot of energy behind those creative ideas. Now, for these people, they need affirmation, and again, in a healthy way. Why? Because if I'm a people person and I invest a lot of my life energy into the people aspect of life, I'm probably going to want to be affirmed by people. I'm probably going to want to know that energy is not going to waste, that other people like me, that other people like to be around me, enjoy my personality. So they do need a little bit of that affirmation, popularity, and recognition. These are the people who, if you really want to wow them, don't buy them something expensive. Don't give them some real sincere, heartfelt compliment. Bring them up to the front of the class. Bring them up on stage, right? And have everybody clap for them in a group setting. They love that. They actually, it's not that they don't mind the spotlight. They love the spotlight. That energizes them. So this is really your poster child extrovert right here. If this is kind of like you, just put I in the chat. Mickey said there are a few flight attendants in attendance today. I love it. I love it. If you resonate with any of that, like, yep, I'm a people person. I just like to interact with people. I got energy for that. Then put I in the chat.
It's so interesting. Me and a colleague of mine I teach with, we were just discussing this. We were trying to find out ways to motivate students. And we're like, they're not showing up for sectionals. They're not, to work on different things. And I had to explain to them, like we have to be very careful that we're not in a habit of trying to create more of us.
Mm.
Like we're the anomalies. Think about when you were in band or you were in orchestra, choir, you were in class. How many of your friends went on to be music professionals? Probably few to none. How many went on to be music educators? The number was probably dramatically even smaller. So when we look in this classroom, we're probably not going to have a lot of kids that are just motivated by the joy of music alone. There are some kids that are literally only showing up to the sectional or the rehearsal because the other kids are there. It's the social element of it. So again, if you can't beat them, join them. That's why one thing I try to do in my class is we don't try to take the social element out. I try to give a few embedded minutes at the beginning. Hey, I give them a few minutes to talk because I realize that for some kids, this may be the only time where they come together and see all their friends because they're maybe in different grade levels. They may be in different parts of the campus. So you want to feed that. So in order to take, I got to be able to give first. So those social animals, so to speak, those flight attendants, super, super, super important to see who they are and meet them where they're at.
1000%. I see a lot of people asking questions in the chat. Can we have traits from each of these styles? Yes, and as a matter of fact, all of you do. We all have a little bit of D.I.S.C in us. We just tend to lean into one more than the other. We tend to lead with one more than the other. So for me, I tend to be what I would call a C, a high C personality. And we're going to get to that in just a second, but I'm very detail oriented, very analytical, right? I like the process of things. And so although I can stand on stage in front of 1,200 people and give a presentation, that seems awfully flight attendant like. Well, yeah, because it doesn't mean just because I don't happen to be super magnetic, super energetic all the time, that isn't my natural disposition. It doesn't mean that I can't do it. It just means I lead with that detail-oriented, analytical side of my personality. So we all have all four, right? But we're going to lean more into some than the others. Let's talk about that S style real quick. So the S is what I like to call our grounds crew. For them, they're stable, steady, and sweet. The three S's: stable, steady, and sweet. When we say stable, it just refers to they don't typically have the high highs and low lows of a lot of the other behavior styles. That pilot, they sometimes have that aggressive energy. They get a little angry every once in a while. That flight attendant, they have the social energy. It's just people bouncing all over the walls, energy, ideas, creativity. The grounds crew is just smooth and steady, baby. Smooth and steady. I'm not trying to impress nobody. I'm not trying to move too fast. Smooth and steady wins the race. They're stable. They're not going to have some of those mood swings, right? Steady refers to their pace. Now, a pilot, they might pick something up because they're interested in it and they execute really fast and they get bored and they put it down. Flight attendant, same thing. That creative energy hits, let's do this. And they might not follow through with it. Now, not all of them. Not all of them. When you mature, you learn how to handle things like that. But that's something you might be prone to. It's a blind spot. The grounds crew, slow and steady wins the race. We don't have up, down, follow through, slow and steady. That's what they're gifted at. They have really sweet personalities as well. These are the people that they tend to be low key. They tend to be incredibly good listeners. And so they can get along with a lot of people because of that. And so they are people oriented, just like that flight attendant high I is, but it's in a more laid back and reserved way. So the flight attendant is like, hey, how's it going? The grounds crew is like, hey, how are you today? One is a little bit more empathetic. The other one is a bit more energetic, right? Now for needs, they need security. These are people who are not going to be high risk, high reward. They want stability. They want security. They want approval. It's not like that pilot where they're going to make decisions no matter what you say or what you think. They're like, let me check with you first, make sure that everybody's good. They're peacekeepers. They don't want to cause conflict or disrupt the peace. They also need appreciation. These are not the people, unlike flight attendants, these are not the people that you want to call up front and center to the front of the classroom and say, hey, look at what this person did. Pull them aside and just give them a sincere word of appreciation. Just one-on-one. Hey, I just want you to know, I really, really appreciate what you're doing and I see your progress. You're doing a great job. That'll mean so much more to them then the lights, the cameras, the confetti, they don't care about that stuff. Matter of fact, it'll make them uncomfortable. But that sincere appreciation, that's their love language, right? If that's you, put S in the chat. I already see a couple of people said, yep, I'm an S. I'm an S. You got anything for this one, Mickey? I'm trying to
Well,
go fast. I know I'm over time already.
it's all good. I was gonna mention that for so many teachers, when I go different places and I hear them describe their ideal students, especially when we talk about a band or an ensemble, we don't realize it, but oftentimes we're looking for that S. We're looking for that grounds crew person, the person that understands that it's we over me, right? That there's no I in team, that they're good kind of being in the background, one band, one sound, that those mantras kind of lend itself to that being, so to speak. So it's very easy for us, because of what we do, to love to love this type of child. But it's so important that we understand each child, because each child needs the love, as we all are looking to be valued as human beings.
Absolutely. I love that. And speaking of the model student, right? And by the way, we don't have time to go too deep into that, but that is one of the biggest challenges that I think people and I'm going to say our profession, because coaching and teaching, my classroom does look a little different. I'll give you that. But it's similar, right? We're working with other people to help them develop. And a big challenge that we have is we're looking for that model ideal student that we have in our minds, instead of recognizing every student can be the ideal student. They just learn differently. They just are gifted and good at different things. They have their own skill sets, their own superpowers, right? That's why we call it a superpower, because a pilot, that high D, they make decisions way better than I can. They're just like, they don't second guess. There's boom, boom, boom. I can't do that. I tend to analyze and overthink, right? That grounds crew, they can just connect with people. They can just diffuse situations. They're peacekeepers. They're stable. Their follow through is impeccable. It's a superpower. What we have to learn to do is respect each superpower enough to say, okay, now that I have identified what your superpower is, let me put you in a position for success based on who you are, not based on who I want you to be. Not based on who your classmate is, not based on who your coworker is. Let me put you as a unique individual in a very particular position for you to succeed, because I understand who you are and I understand what you need. By the way, we're not just talking about the kids in the classroom. We're talking about you. We're talking about you. There's a lot of us who are grounds crews trying to act like a pilot. There's a lot of flight attendants trying to act like air traffic control. Why? So you can do a bad job at it? It doesn't make sense. Let them do that, because that's their gift. That's their superpower. And you need to be confident enough to lean into who you are and say, look, this is what I do. And I'm so good at it. I don't even need to try and be anybody else. Like we said at the very beginning, if you get nothing else from this, you don't need to be anybody or anything different. You need to be all fully who you are, right? Last one, air traffic controller. I'm a little biased because this is me, right? This is me all the way, every day of the week, right? Calculating, competent, contemplative, the 3 C's. Calculating, I'm going through every decision, every possible outcome that I can think of, and I'm thinking 17 steps ahead. I'm playing chess in my mind all day long, because I'm driven almost by fear, and I want to do everything perfectly. I'm a bit of a perfectionist. I want to do things right. I want to do things right the first time. So I'm calculating every decision that I make. I'm competent because I force myself to be. Again, fear of criticism. I'm going to make sure that I'm competent because I value competency. I value good work. I value doing things well. I value quality. So I'm going to make sure that I'm competent. Contemplative, meaning I'm just thinking all day long. I'm thinking. I might not be speaking as much. I might be more introverted, but you better believe I'm thinking. Just because I'm not talking, don't make that mistake. That kid in class who never talks, he might be the smartest one of the bunch because he's thinking, even if he doesn't speak it, right? Needs, values, confirmation, and excellence. Values meaning we need a system to follow because we like to adhere to standards. We actually enjoy rules. We get scared if it's open-ended. It's like that's a lot of pressure to try and innovate, figure everything else out. I don't want to do that. I want you to give me the structure and I'll just follow that to a T, right? So I need some sort of value system. I need confirmation that I'm doing things right. I don't even necessarily need the big award on stage. I don't need you to call me out and give me, claps in front of everybody. All I need is confirmation that I'm doing things right. How people feel about it isn't even necessarily my concern. But if it's correct, I'm happy. right? And then excellence. If it's not excellent, I don't want to put my name on it. If that's you, put C in the chat. Put C in the chat. If that's you. Good. Got a couple. Got a couple. Got a couple. I love it. I love it. I love it. So here's what I want to show you, and then we're going to get out of here. Here's what I want to show you. I told you I was a gymnast, right? I think I told you that at the very beginning, right? I was a gymnast. I was also a coach, okay? Now, this is why the self-awareness piece is so critical. As a gymnast, I needed to know the how. It wasn't enough for somebody or a coach to say, hey, go do this. Well, how? Give me a step-by-step blueprint. Give me the why behind it. Why am I doing this? How is this going to help me? I was more of a strategizer than a competitor. I hated competing. You mean you want me to go do this and be judged by the judges in front of 200, 300, 400 people in the stands? Hated competing. Hated competing, but I was a great strategizer. I would love to sit there and write out my routines, figure out where can I save a tenth of a point here? Where can I do this? I love to strategize. And I got my confidence from my systems, not from my emotions. I wasn't that guy that could just get fired up and get hype and then be ready to go compete. Didn't work for me. But if I systematically trained and I systematically, okay, I knew I've done this exact number of routines the week leading up to the competition, that's where I gained my confidence from, right? Now I want you to see this. I was cut from the gymnastics team at the University of Michigan 4 times in 5 years. The year that I wasn't cut, I was redshirted. Not a great track record. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, okay, Mickey, why did you bring on somebody who has consistently failed at their life to come talk to us about self-awareness and alignment and putting yourself in a position to succeed? Something's not adding up here. And I don't blame you for thinking it. But see, what I realized is that who I was didn't need to change. But the position that I was in was not leveraging my strengths. Watch this, y'all. Watch this. This is right after winning Big Ten championship, right? A couple of championship rings there. This is when I was a coach for the exact same team that I was cut from. And I want you to notice this. Watch those bullet points on the right-hand side of that slide. They don't change. As a coach, I still needed the how. I was still a better strategizer than a competitor. I still got my confidence from the systems that I was putting my team through, not the emotions that I was inspiring in them before a competition. The only thing that changed was the result. I didn't change. The result changed because I got myself in alignment with where I was supposed to be. And that's the craziest thing. Let's go full circle all the way back to that example of pulling in behind that car and judging where I was based on where he was. I just thought being the superstar athlete, that's what you were supposed to do. I just thought that's how you got the points. You got credit for being cool if that was who you were. I was supposed to be that Michael Jordan, aggressive, alpha, type A kind of guy that was going to go out there and compete and win a championship for the team. I just assumed that's what I was supposed to do because that's what people around me were doing. Come to find out, when I tried that, I wasn't good at it. And no wonder, because that's not who I am. I'm a coach. I'm truly a coach at heart. I like to look at a situation, analyze it 7 steps back and prescribe a solution and break that down and get detailed and come up with systems for it. That's what I do. And so as soon as I learned to leverage my natural superpower and align it with what was required for the situation, success came. So I didn't work a tenth as hard for these championship rings as a coach as I did to fail as an athlete. Isn't that crazy? I didn't have to work to succeed, and I worked my butt off to get the mess kicked out of me every single year when it was time for cuts. It makes no sense. But at the same time, it makes all the sense in the world. And so if you get anything out of today, I just want you to know every single one of you is unique. And you got to start acting like it. When you begin to pour back into yourself and you say, you know what, I think I am that high S personality. I need to take care of that. I need to pour into that. I need to learn to love that. Self-worth, self-value, they both start with the word self. Don't look at other people for that. That's you. When you pour back into yourself, you're going to be able to pour out into others 10 times more. But you got to start with you. And I asked Mickey before we got started here if this was a spiritual crowd or not. He was like, I don't really know. So I said, okay, I'm just going to take a shot in the dark here just at the very end. What I want you to do, whatever God that you pray to, and it could be a universe thing, it could be a manifestation thing, whatever it is that you believe in, it's not my business. But whatever God you believe in and pray to, I need you to pray to see your gifts, talents, and superpowers the way that he sees them. Because what's happening with a lot of y'all right now is you're so gifted and talented and you have the ability to touch and impact so many of these kids' lives, and you see yourself through a broken mirror because you don't see how special you really are. because you're looking at other people, or you're looking at the school, the situation the environment that you find yourself in, and none of that matters, but you are detracting value from what you have to provide, what you have to offer. And that's why you spend so much time pouring into others instead of pouring into yourself. You say, well, this is all that I can do. But if you would just learn to see your gifts and your talents and your value the way that he sees them, or the way that even other people see him, Mickey sees it. I guarantee you, if you believe in your own potential the way that Mickey believed in all your potential, you wouldn't doubt yourself a second in your life. I guarantee it. But you're looking through a broken mirror. So sometimes you need a guy like him in a bright red shirt and that nice little hat. Say, you know what? You're better than you think you are. And if you start to walk in that, you're going to benefit. Your students will benefit. Your school will benefit. Everybody around you is going to go to a whole nother level. Mickey, I'm over my time by a lot. I'm sorry.
No, you're right on time, man. Look, and you could not have presented it, in my opinion, any better. It's a lot of information, and I'm thoroughly impressed that you're able to condense it into that amount of time. This morning, the first thing I wrote down, because every day I take some time. You know, we talked about it. I'm not just telling y'all something that I don't do. Every day I start my day by declaring and dictating my day, dictating that narrative. And the first thing I wrote down today was believing is seeing, because so many times we say seeing is believing, but believing is seeing. And I was challenging myself and others to find something bigger than ourselves to believe in, and then allow yourself to be guided by those principles. Look, this doesn't replace anything. It's just a lens to look at life through. And for me, it has absolutely changed the way that I see myself, how I see my students, how I see the interactions. Is the understanding that we all have a sound. Your sound may be a pilot, your sound may be a flight attendant, your sound may be grounds crew, your sound may be air traffic control. Your sound may even have overtones, just like on a piano when you press, Brandon, you press one key, the other strings vibrate and resonate. So in that sound, there's other flavors, so to speak. So the idea that we're one singular sound is next to none. Everybody has a little bit of everything in it, but as he said before, there's a dominant trait. There's something that we naturally lead into and lean into. This is what I want to do for y'all, okay? And Brandon's gonna help me because I'm terrible at this. I may have to call for tech support, Brandon. What I'd like to do for everybody is to give everyone access to a DISC assessment, so that you get the opportunity to get this flight assessment. Not only will it tell you, this is what I love about it. Not only will it tell you what your preferences and tendencies are, what your natural superpower is, but it also tells you in times of crisis what your adaptive superpower is. Because sometimes in a point of crisis, you ever see somebody like that was out of character? Well, really? Was it out of character? It's just you hadn't seen them in a point of crisis, right? And it's important that we understand who we are from every spectrum. And it also gives us some examples of how to interact with those other folks. There's a book, please forgive my language. The book is called Surrounded by Idiots. It's by Thomas Erickson. He's a beautiful, wonderful, beautiful soul. The title is not indicative of his spirit. He's from Sweden, very sweet man. But he was interviewing an entrepreneur one day, and he was trying to pitch this individual some a course or something like that. And the person said, "I'm surrounded by idiots." But there was no problem with the people he was surrounded by, but it was the way that he saw them. His inability to see their potential and their superpower actually held him back as a leader, and it actually diminished the efficiency and the effectiveness of his business. And I believe as teachers, our classrooms become more effective when we see the significance in every child and in ourselves as well. So I want to be able to provide you guys, usually it's cost something. I feel like an infomercial, but for right now, you get it absolutely free. And that's part of this course. And I think it's so important. However you feel about this, it's definitely a tool worth exploring and looking at, because it'll help guide us as we continue to go through our journey of keep on going as well. So let's open up the floor. B, I know time is spent, but I definitely want to provide some time for questions. I saw some folks that had some comments, some questions earlier. I don't know if we've addressed those, but this is me Zoom. I'm killing time right now to give people the courage to speak up or to use the chat. So I gave you a little time, talk amongst yourselves. That's me talking, that's me delaying. Okay, now that I've delayed smoke screen over, anybody got any questions or comments, feel free to take yourself off mute. if you're a pilot or flight attendant, if you're more ground crew or air traffic control, feel free to use that chat room as well. Talk to me, y'all.
I think that sometimes I think I'm more of a D, just decisive, but the needs are respect and choices and control. And I think sometimes as music teachers, we don't get the same kind of credibility as math teacher. Sometimes if I'm going to give a little quiz, which I don't do really a whole lot, but if something needs to be done, and there's a social studies quiz, they're going to study for social studies, or if there's going to be a math quiz. So I think that sometimes if we need things from administration, or from other teachers, well, you're just the music teacher.
Yeah. I feel that. As far as the pilot, a lot of times when we think about the respect, we all want it. I mean, every element of the flight wants that respect. But the pilot is that individual that absolutely doesn't desire it, but thrives off of it. It's that individual, and a lot of times too. Look, and I know everybody in here has some pilot, probably has some D, so to speak, that aspect that resides within them. But I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't think we have any incredibly high pilots in this room. Just from my brief interactions with you, the pilots sometimes are those individuals that can often rub us the wrong way because they're very abrupt. They're very to the point. They literally seem to not care about your feelings. They do. They do. They just don't oftentimes know how they come off. A lot of times because it's not about people or relationship. It's just about getting the job done. And if somebody's got to die to get the job done, then it was nice knowing you, Harry. It was cool. But like the show moves, hey, am I being too direct, Brandon? Look, I haven't been around him enough. I kind of sound like one now. Is that a clear assessment?
No, here's what's funny is, of course, Sean, my videographer, is in the room and he's a super high pilot. So you just knocked him out with that one.
Hey, it's all love. We need them. Hey, because air traffic control, me and Coach B, me and Brandon are high air traffic control. And I understand now, left up to me, nothing would get done because I would go back and check it 42 times, get 17 referrals and 2 opinions, and then go back and do a double study, and then go back again and do it. It would never get done. So sometimes we need that pilot to be like, hey, enough, let's go. Keep on going. So, hey, Sean, we love you, man. If you're in the background, we love you, man. There's a place in the band for you. Yeah, somebody said their principal is a pilot. That's not a coincidence, because think about it. Oftentimes administrators, they're the people that's got to make the hard decisions. They got to pull the trigger. They can't always have those personal attachments, and they can't always be as relational because it's bottom line. So a lot of times that's why the coaches oftentimes get moved up in the ranks, because they need somebody that's not going to get lost in the malaise of care and compassion and heart. They want somebody that's like, hey, it's about the numbers. Okay, the numbers aren't good. You got to go. We're doing a cut right here. Whereas, sometimes we don't always have that ability if we reside in those other areas too. This is good stuff. This is good. Yeah. Anybody else? Questions? The assessment, and feel free, if somebody chimes in, you can cut me off. It's okay. The assessment is so powerful because it lets you see yourself, but it also lets you see the interactions. Those are so important. I have a colleague of mine right now. They're having a difficult time. One is a flight attendant, and one is an air traffic control. And we don't think of that as being a difficult thing, but it's very difficult because the air traffic control person thinks that the flight attendant is aloof because they're not really big on details. And this person, just says the first thing that comes to their mouth, and they forget stuff because they're so relational. And this person sees them as being maybe incompetent or not up to task, when that's not the case. It's not the case at all. So I'm trying to get him to understand the value that the flight attendant has, and also trying to get the flight attendant to understand, okay, that air traffic control, pretty direct, sometimes even a little heartless, but very calculating. You've got to draw on each other's strengths.
Yeah,
Willie, what you got?
Yeah, you just said a second ago, to Brendan's videographer, there's a place for him in the band, and you need all four of them to fly the plane, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. Now that right there, that's the cost of admission, man. If we could just get the whole world to understand that this plane ain't gonna fly unless we got all parties involved. Because I'm telling you, I had a delay this weekend because the flight attendant wasn't there. Now, in my opinion, no disrespect, I'm like, we can fly this plane without the pretzels. I mean, I'm be honest. I just we don't need them. The flight was 45 minutes. But isn't it interesting that that plane would not take off unless every person that was involved with the flight was in place? Yet oftentimes we're willing to take off without making sure that every position has been filled and every need is met and every individual has a place, a rightful place on that flight. So that's what this is about. Just Willie, you couldn't have said it any better, man. You know, we need everybody on board. Now, hey, Brandon, look, there you go. I just gave you the book title. Everybody on board, man. There you go. There you go. I'm just saying, thank you, Willie.
Good.
You have to pay, look, you have to pay Willie the check. I just outsourced his brilliance.
That's good. I mean, it's so true though, and I want to make sure everybody sees that from both the mirror as well as the window, right? The mirror meaning for everybody in this room, there should be no doubt that you're needed. Whether you're a high D, a high I, a high S, a high C, you're needed, right? The whole system falls apart without you. But that's the mirror. Now the window is your classroom falls apart if it's just one person in there too, if it's just one behavior style, right? Literally, the plane will not take off. The pilot has to fly the thing, and his purpose is to get it from point A to point B, and he's only doing his job if he's bringing people with him. A true pilot has passengers on the plane. They're not just up there flying around aimless for absolutely no reason, right? The flight attendant has dominion over the experience, right? Those are the people who are curating the experience on board to make it enjoyable. The ground crew, I don't know if everybody knows this, but a plane does not go in reverse. You literally can't, like the ground crew has to push the plane back. That's why it's called pushback, right? Otherwise, the plane will never be able to take off because it can't back itself up. The ground crew has to get in that little truck, push it away before the pilot even has the power. With all the power the pilot has, all 20,000 pounds of thrust on either wing from those engines, he can't do anything with it until that ground crew comes along and pushes him back. Right? Same thing for the air traffic control. You're not taking off unless the air traffic control clears it. Why? Because they're detail oriented and they know that if you take off 20 seconds too late, you're going to crash with that other plane that's coming in to land. So without all four of them, the whole system falls apart. And what we've got to get out of the habit of is looking at other people and judging us based on their superpower. Like Mickey said that I work for a guy named Eric Thomas, #1 motivational speaker in the world. I can't do what he does. And if I judge myself as a motivational speaker, I'm going to be pretty harsh on myself. If I judge myself as an air traffic controller that can work with him and take all these ideas and concepts, boil them down into a step-by-step formula, I'm pretty doggone good at that. But it's because I know what I do. I'm sorry, Mickey. I'm
That's good. No, this is so good. And I wanted us all to kind of take this in, #1, because I want to provide the opportunity for us all to take the assessment. But this mirror will also help guide us when we create our management action plans, because it's important to know how we best operate, how we best learn, how we best improve. That's why I'm gonna be honest, for the first couple of weeks, it's been kind of fluid. I haven't been too rigid about it. Has to be like this, has to be like that. I'm gonna be honest. Can I be real with y'all? I've been low-key studying y'all. That's the air traffic control in me. I just kind of see, okay, how are they, what are they naturally going into? Because for me, it doesn't do me any good to make you all fit into my mold. This class is supposed to serve you. So I think the weight is on me to figure out who's in the room and then provide you an experience that allows you to elevate, that allows you to accelerate into who you want to be and what you want to do in these next steps. So thank you for your patience with this. We are now, I'm going to give you guys a link. I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to give you guys a link so you can explore this assessment for yourself. May have to set up some individual times if you want to talk about a little bit more, because I don't want to take up a Zoom with that again. But what we'll do next is we'll have our management action plan. And when we do the management action plan, it's going to be talking about, okay, how do we distill down what we just talked about in the last 3 weeks and create a plan of action, a course of action for us to be more fulfilled, for us to be more satisfied in who we are personally, and that allow that to permeate into the classroom as teachers, because at the end of the day, it starts here. It starts here. As much as we want to think it's about the curriculum and school you teach at, and those things are important, okay? It starts with you. And being the best student of yourself is the best way to make the best students that you teach as well. So look, guys, a good friend of mine always says, clock on the wall says it's time to go. And I'm gonna tell you, like she always tells me, go be amazing on purpose, guys. Much love. Brandon, we appreciate you, man. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise. This was beyond valuable. And we look forward to keeping you in tune with what happens next. I believe that this is the start of something powerful. So thank you for coming in and providing us a springboard for us to explore more and see more in this season, starting with that DISC assessment. So guys, until next time, stay tuned. I'll try to get Zoom right. I'll try to do this thing better next time. But until then, keep on going.